Hi, and welcome to Kristin's Corner. I'm Kristin Huffman. This is a show where I'm interviewing experts in the entertainment industry about tips and trends in the business so that we can all be better prepared. Today, I'm so excited to interview Joe Barros. He is an award-winning director and choreographer working on Broadway, regionally, internationally, and in film, in addition to developing original musicals around the world, not just New York, around the world. Joe is the co-founder and artistic director of New York Theater Barn. You've seen some of the things that he has been associate director for on Broadway, Gigi being one of those, an off-Broadway evolution of Man, Cagney, Bastard Jones, A Taste of Things to Come, so many things, 2 national tours of Charlie Brown Christmas. He's got film choreography credits, and I could go on forever, but I'm going to let him talk about this as I interview him. You know, you seem to be busier than ever during COVID. I know a lot of people just kind of shut down and they were sort of in waiting mode. You don't ever seem to be in waiting mode. I mean, how did you handle your career during COVID?
Yeah, it was pretty scary at first, but I think, sort of a motto of mine and with New York Theater Barn is limitation is creation. And that was actually a saying that was told to me by my ballet teacher at the Hart School, Ching Hosier. And so while the world is evolving, there are so many things we can do. And so for the past year, what I've been doing for my company and for myself is I've been focused on evolving what's already there and evolving the programming of New York Theater Barn and being a part of the transformation of theater as we know it, working with what we've got now with an eye on returning to live. Actually, the company New York Theater Barn has not lost any funds. We've actually grown a lot. We've brought on 15 new advisory board members, 5 new board members. And for the first time in our company's history, I was always a non-salaried employee where I would get stipends for things that I did. Now I make a monthly stipend, still very modest, but every artist now who comes through our doors will get paid. For the past year, and with all of New York Theater Barn's programming combined, we presented 76 new musicals, lifted up the work of 127 writers and over 400 artists.
That is totally incredible. And you are all about, since I've known you at the Hart School, about creating, new things or seeing things in a different way. So I'm kudos to that. What would you say to young people who are either just arriving in New York, maybe they're just out of school? What kinds of things would you advise a young performer?
Well, firstly, dreams don't die, so keep an eye on your dreams. And goals are dreams with deadlines. So, like I could tell artists when we're working on a song or writers when we're working on a show, what is your intention? Mm-hmm. And the intention of that artist isn't just the intention for that song and that story and their personal scenario. What was your intention when you woke up that day? Mm-hmm. What is your intention for your life? So if you have a clear idea of what it is that you want, what you're living for, what you're working for, I think you can literally manifest it. If you focus hard enough and put in the work, you can make those things happen.
That's great. Is there anything that you would have done differently? Any kind of training you would suggest that young people get that you didn't get, or something you want to, promote in terms of, wow, when I was in school, I didn't have to do this, but do this now?
I always knew I wanted to be a director and choreographer and be on this side of the table, but and being an actor in training was really, really hard. It's a lot of work. It's grueling. I think it tests your soul, but it taught me to understand. It taught me to understand how complicated it is and how to speak to actors and how sensitive they are in this process and how vulnerable they need to be. But also the power of going to summer stock and learning how to sew and serge and build sets. Right. And just to have that knowledge. So wherever you are on the team, you can speak to people. I think we all need to know more about the digital age. We have to know how to edit. And if you have a friend who knows how to edit, you literally can train yourself how to work iMovie in a matter of minutes. And I've trained myself because it's come in handy for the work that I need to lift up for my students.
What kind of tips would you give young people? Obviously, that's one of them. Get better at digital submissions and digital work in general. Anything else?
So one of the things that we discovered are new ways to develop musicals. We made an incredible discovery in New York Theater Barn during this time, and we created Theater Barn Records, which is a new imprint of Broadway records and dedicated to musicals in development. We just felt that in this critical digital age that we now live in, concept albums of new musicals in development are the fastest and most lucrative ways that writers can be noticed, supported, and advanced while their shows are in development.
Speaking of in development, tell me about Breathe.
Yeah, Breathe is a new show, Breathe, Portraits of a Pandemic. Jeff Calhoun, the director, brought me on board. And it is 5 mini musicals. Each musical is about the pandemic and written in the pandemic, and Breathe is the collection. Each show has its own writing team and director. And so I get to direct one of the shows called Aches. My writing team is Kate Leonard and Dan Mertzluft, who are the Ratatouille writers. Next week, we're going to go into rehearsal for a sort of stage reading concert that we're going to film. Sony's going to record an album.
That combination of live and film work, right? Can you talk a little bit about that and what maybe you see as a trend coming?
So for instance, we've been working on a show called Sueños. Sueños means dreams in Spanish, and it's about 3 generations of a Mexican-American family and their pursuit of the American dream, primarily all Latinx cast. It was in our New Work series in the real world, then was in our New Work series, our virtual hybrid version that we do every other week. And then it was also in our historic choreography lab in October. Our lab is the only platform I know of where writers and choreographers collaborate on movement for new musicals during incubation.
Yeah.
So we took Sueños and a show called I Don't Want to Talk About It, and we put them on their feet for the first time. We had 2 casts performing live in masks from Broadway Dance Center, and we have a company called Full Out Creative who films the work from the front, proscenium, and then shows us how magical it can be with a moving camera. And now we can tell the audience where to look. We're the lighting designer, and then we identify the 8 songs that we feel are the strongest from the show, and we want to work towards recording a concept album of the show. And in preparation for doing that, to really workshop the orchestrations and the connective tissue around it, we will go into rehearsal for a week or 2 in a workshop process with actors. We will also have Full Out Creative film that so we can release a marketing package that continues to create the global audience even before the album's recorded.
What's your advice about diversifying?
I call that a multi-hyphenate. And I feel that some people think that it's just crazy. Like, how can I do this? How can I do that? And for me, it's like they all funnel together. They all work together to help the other. The work that I do at the New York Conservatory of Dramatic Arts, I introduce my students to the culture shifting musicals that I'm developing. Because of that connection, the writers get a chance to have students examine their work. And I've recently been working on a class where the students did a live stream where they performed songs from new musicals, and they got to talk about what the song meant to them and why they chose it and why they created a personal approach in the song. And some of them made really fancy self-tapes, and some of them made like mini movies.
So diversifying into film, diversifying into the editing process, diversifying into the designing process. If you are in a college right now, what extra classes would you want to take?
Yeah, I think I would want to take a design class or like a marketing class so that I can talk more articulately with my team.
It really allows us as the artist to control our narrative and not have to wait on somebody else, you know, even if it's not the level that you are as a director or a choreographer, or, you know, somebody coming out of school, they're so great at this one thing. I think people are afraid to not be at that level at everything, but you got to fail up a little bit, you know, to be able to do that. What are some big goals or big projects you have coming up in 2021?
Well, I'm working on a production of Crazy for You, which I'm so excited about, which is at Southeastern Summer Theater Institute in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. New York Theater Barn is working on a show called Wonder Boy. So right now we are workshopping 4 songs, working towards a 4-track EP, and it's written by a trans man named Jamie Jarrett, and it's about a transgender superhero.
Anything else you have coming up in 2021?
Yeah, I actually, I'm developing a new musical about Ryan White, who's the teenage hemophiliac who became the poster child for AIDS in the 80s. Last month, I workshopped a sequence from it called To Whom It May Concern, Dear Ryan, which is a sequence from the show that we workshop with 23 actors from around the world. I wrote it with my friends, Ryan Haza and Ben Shaver. And, this is a part of my history. My grandfather had a blood transfusion in the 80s and contracted AIDS, passed it to my grandmother. And it was pretty tragic for my family. And so as a child discovering the story of Ryan White, it really, it opened my eyes.
I don't know anybody who's busier than you are, who has more projects going on, seriously. And you do them all so well, and people have such respect for you. So kudos and yay, I'm glad I know you. So if people want to find you, where do they go online?
So joebarros.com.
Okay, great.
And nytheaterbarn.org. And on Instagram, I'm B is for Barros, or at B is for Barros.
Thank you so much for joining us. We just want everybody watching this show to be better prepared for a career in entertainment and maybe know some things that we didn't know when we stepped out of our own little corner. So make sure that you join us next time. Thank you again, Joe Barros, for joining us.
Thank you.